Welcome, everyone. The board met in closed session and discussed the public employee performance evaluation. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask Dr. Heather Cash, principal of Madison Elementary, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice for all.
Okay, Dr. Cash, you have a presentation about Madison. Take it away.
Good evening, Board President Flynn, members of the board, Dr. Keller and Cabinet. Thank you for inviting us tonight to share with you our extraordinary partnership with the families and caregivers at Madison School. I'm Heather Cash, I'm the principal of Madison, and I have with me Jessica Wong, our Madison PTA president. The single best predictor of student success in school is the level of parental involvement in a child's education. This statement can't be attributed to any one researcher. It's been proven over and over again through learning research. Lydia here is Jessica Wong's daughter, and due to Jessica's participation in our school community, Lydia is sure to feel connected and successful as a learner. She also refused to speak tonight. 2 very long years ago, this culture of school caregiver collaboration began with the Do Good, Be Kind campaign under the leadership of Wendy Van Zant as PTA president. The timing really was perfect for us as it provided us the resilience and foundations of a partnership to survive the challenges of a pandemic together. RBUSD is a unique place, but Madison is extraordinarily special. I read about conflicts on school campuses around COVID procedures, but at Madison, our staff has felt nothing but support from our amazing parent community.
The pandemic hit everyone in our community hard, and our initial natural focus was on the health and well-being and safety of our kids and families as we struggled with this new reality. We got through the spring and summer of 2020 together, and we understood that fall 2020 was going to look very different in our schools. Do Good, Be Kind laid the foundation for parent and community support of our school and teachers.
We learned a lot from the shutdown. We had glimpses into homes, and parents watched our teaching firsthand. The homeschool barrier has been completely shattered, and now we have an open communication flow, frequent Zoom conferences. We're continuing our morning meetings school-wide to address the socio-emotional needs of our students.
Most importantly, the culture at Madison is founded on trust. The parents and the school share the feeling that we've got each other's backs. Teachers know they're supported, parents support the school and administration, and we're aware and very much feel that the teachers and administration have our back as well.
Together, with our families, we're building a culture of kindness, inclusion, and belonging. It's visible and it's tangible.
Each week, Heather and I build our communication strategy together for maximum impact. We publish a weekly Madison Comment newsletter that we build jointly on Canva and then publish via Parent Square for our community and on the school website and through our social media channels.
There are visible representations of our culture everywhere, from our Do Good, Be Kind t-shirts, which you saw a couple of years ago, to our physical joint presence. We have spirit wear and newly planned inclusive murals celebrating our diversity and our culture.
We share social media blasts to reach every caregiver, jointly supporting each other's efforts to include all community members in the mission and activities at our school.
We've also found a powerful resource in our own community of experts and professionals who can continue to build on this support through parent education opportunities and Zoom chats, such as our recent breakfast hosted by Madison with our special guest and parent, Jamie Yellen-Hecker, a licensed clinical social worker, who shared with parents strategies for helping their children manage anxiety and conflict.
And this week, we're actually launching a community WhatsApp for our Madison Comet families to connect caregivers and provide each other community support as an extension of Madison's reach beyond Facebook and WhatsApp. Beyond Facebook and Instagram.
So we know that kids say it best. So let's hear from some of our Comets, children of our PTA members. Caleb and Ava, would you like to come up? All right, Caleb and Ava, what does it mean to you to have your mom on the PTA?
It makes me feel proud that my mom helps on the PTA.
It's special because even though you can't see them, you know they're here.
When they help, it makes me feel good because they're making people happy. They're making Madison a kind and welcoming place.
We're so proud of you, Mom.
Lillian and Gianna. So what exactly does the PTA do at Madison?
Well, it's really hard to know the difference between Madison and the PTA. We do so much. PTA organizes Battle of the Books, morning milers, star reading, assemblies like our virtual science assembly last year, field trips, book fairs, drive-through during the shutdown for Halloween and Valentine's Day, family events like the snow cone truck and the ice cream truck that went around the blocks. They help with the American Heart Association Kids Heart Challenge, the multicultural fair. We have fun dine-outs. They give nice breakfasts and lunches to the hard-working teachers. They're helping with Lego robotics. Remember the family bowling night and ice skating? And the beautiful yearbook each year? I remember the family dance. And they organize all the volunteers, room parents, hands-on art, and Live-Well Kids. I can't wait for next year's Fall Festival. Thanks, Mom.
They wrote these. It was fun. William, how would you describe the culture at Madison?
Madison feels like a welcoming and kind place. It really feels like a home to me. It is a safe place to learn. We always welcome new kids. I always learn something new and have a great day at Madison. I love going to school. I appreciate my mom for helping make Madison a happy place for all of the students.
Classes. We thank you for running interference for us so that we may focus on the work of the district, helping our students and families feel connected and focused on student success. We know it hasn't been easy for you, but we feel your support. It is evident in the tone and climate on campus every day.
Thank you for having us here tonight. We're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Does anyone have any questions?
Where do I buy a t-shirt?
We've got you covered. We have a new t-shirt contest. You're going to love it.
Awesome. Love the t-shirts.
I always get complimented on the Do Good, Be Kind t-shirt when I wear that anywhere, so it's a great theme.
It really created a new tone and climate, and it's carried for 2 years.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, and thank you all. Did you all bring anybody here tonight that you want to introduce?
Ava and Caleb, why don't you introduce your mom? Just stand and say, "This is my mom," and say her name.
What's her name?
Hi. Thank you.
Gianna and Lillian.
This is our mom. This is my mom.
And what's her name?
Monica.
Okay, yay.
This is my mom, Deanna.
Yay. Well, thank you very much. You all did a wonderful job. Before I call up the next report to the board, I need to back up and get a motion and second for the approval of the minutes. I skipped over number 5. Can I get,
Second, Strutzenberg.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Okay. Next up, we have the Redondo Beach Educational Foundation check presentation by Doris Donley Richmond, RBF President.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the school board, Dr. Keller, and the cabinet. My name is Doris Donley Richmond. I'm the Redondo Beach Educational Foundation's president. Over the past 30 years, RBF has been so grateful and inspired to see our parents and community continuously come together in support of our Redondo Public Schools. We saw it again this past Sunday. We all united once again for the Skechers Peer-to-Peer Friendship Walk. Team RBUSD had over 3,500 registered walkers, which is our second highest number of walkers we've ever had as a district. Students, parents, PTA, admin, leadership, principals, and teachers all walked side by side, whether it was in person or virtual, all united in support of children with special needs and public education. We will be seeing that unity again on November 15th at our RBF Community Classic Golf Tournament, which I'm proud to say is back and just about sold out. And most of all, we see it from the proud year-round support of our parents, our community, our business partners and sponsors, for the very reason I am here today with several of my fellow board members. On behalf of the RBF Board of Trustees, we are thrilled to present this grant to the Redondo Beach Unified School District in the amount of $1,028,000 to fund impactful programs for our students and teachers. RBF is deeply grateful for our continued partnership in education, and we look forward to the next 30 years and beyond, because together we are Redondo. And just for the record, the real check is on its way to Dr. Alpern's office. Historically, we've done a photo op. What's your pleasure?
That's fine. Yeah, sure. We'll take $1 million. That's
Great.
fine.
Thank you. All right. Do we have, I'm going to get some.
Thank you guys very much for your continued support of our students in the school district. Next up, we have a presentation regarding optional COVID-19 testing in partnership with Beach Cities Health District by Jessica Silberling and Allie Stewart, Director of Youth Services at Beach Cities Health District.
Thank you, President Flynn, members of the board. Allie and I are excited to be here tonight to describe some of the changes and some of the opportunities that are going to be available to our staff and our students. So Beach Cities is currently in the process of finalizing a contract with Fulgent Labs that's going to allow us to expand opportunities for COVID-19 testing for both the required and optional testing for the school district. It will be available to staff and students. We will begin this transition next week, with it being finalized by November 8th. I'm going to turn it over to our partners at Beach Cities Health District that we're very grateful for, and we appreciate all of their support as we've been navigating the COVID-19 pandemic, and Allie's going to describe sort of what's going to change in the coming weeks.
Good evening, everyone. Happy to be back here again tonight, and happy to continuing to be your partner in public health throughout COVID-19. So on behalf of Beach Cities Health District, we're looking forward to bringing this opportunity to even more students and staff in the beach cities. So our transition will feel familiar, at least for us. We worked with Fulgent Labs for more than a year as we were operating a DHS testing site. We were able to test more than 150,000 people
people through Fulgent during that time. And so for us, it's a little bit of a return to that Fulgent setup, and we're familiar with the back end and the administration of that. There will be a few changes from the testing that we've been doing to date that are outlined here. So they will be lab-based PCR tests. So what we've been doing over the past several months with the Q Health testing has been a point of care PCR molecular test. And so this will be the one that gets sent off to the lab at the end of each testing day, and with about a 24 to 48 hour turnaround time. We're hearing more typically they've been able to accelerate that to be pretty consistently on the 24-hour turnaround mark, but just to let families know that it could be up to 48 hours for that to return. There will be a registration process that needs to happen weekly. If you're one of those 150,000 people that came through the test site, that'll seem familiar as well through the Fulgent portal. That will need to happen every week. Insurance information will be collected, and if there is no insurance, that will be covered by the Fulgent lab. So there should be no cost to the student or to the staff member for this testing. And then one other transition that we're preparing to do, and this is really due to the volume. We had originally set up the testing at our Del Amo location, which, as you know, is the Redondo Beach location just down the hill from the Dreisler School. Due to the volume that we're seeing, several hundred up to 500 tests a week at that site, the parking lot is a little tight, and so we've decided to transition the testing over to our main Beach Cities Health District campus on Prospect. So that will happen at the same time as we make the lab transition. So that'll be happening just to the south of the building in a former child development site, which is very close to where we were doing the drive-through testing previously. So I'll turn it back over to Jessica.
So the schedule that will be taking place is not too different from the schedule now. Mondays will still remain at our UHS from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. and this is reserved for our employees and our high school athletes that are required to test weekly. Thursdays, we have a time slot for our middle school intramural athletes that are required to test weekly. And then a Monday through Friday, the 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. at the Beach City site, the new location that Allie just described, that will be available to any staff or student that would like to test weekly for a symptomatic or quarantining individual and or close contacts. So those registration links will be provided if you are identified as a close contact or needing to quarantine or are symptomatic. Additionally, we will be sending out information next week to obtain the registration link through a Google form should you want to test your student or staff member weekly. That option will be available to you. There will not be testing the week of Thanksgiving nor winter break, but we will resume again January 3rd. So we want to just give the community a heads up on this schedule. And so the cost of this program is at this point being funded through the ELC COVID testing grant that was provided via the Los Angeles County Office of Education. We've already been awarded the grant, so we will be submitting for reimbursement, and the reimbursement costs that were written into the grant include tests, include staffing for testing and vaccination clinics. That's the staffing from Beach Cities that is heavily supporting this, as well as data management, supervision of the data, and support for those pieces. And that has been awarded again through LACO. So, any questions?
Yeah, one question on the pre-registration. Is that a requirement now, or is that something new that's coming into play?
So right now, our staff and our student athletes were able to register once and then come back. So the change is that the Fulgent Lab does require you to register every week, regardless of if you fall into that Monday testing or if you're coming in that 2 to 5. So that link, once you get it, you will use it again to register. So that is a change.
Okay. And it's an ongoing, like you said, it's every time, basically.
Every time, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Which is, I don't know if you went previously to Fulgent Labs, that's how you had to sign up every single time. If you ever got tested at Beach Cities previously, it looks very similar.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, this isn't an opportunity for the audience to ask questions. The board is having a discussion. We can have, you can save it for public comments if you'd like to. Okay. I do have a clarifying question. This is completely optional testing. This is not
not required.
Mandatory. This is not. This is if parents would like the opportunity for their students only, not family members, to
It's not for
receive
family members.
COVID testing, and it's another option if they want it. They can still go to their physician, they can go to county test sites if they have to present a negative COVID vaccine.
Absolutely, yes. It's just another option that's available to staff and students.
And the money that was received, that is specifically for COVID testing that was given to schools to use for COVID testing.
Yes, it was very restricted funding related to COVID testing activities that we had to apply for the grant and outline what it could be used for.
Okay, and this is separate from what we're the mandated testing for unvaccinated staff or unvaccinated high school and middle school athletes?
The funding, sorry.
Well, this is in addition to that.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
This is not something new that we're offering as an option for our parents.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
I had a question on the slide where you said we were taking the break during winter break.
Yes.
Is there that option then for January 3rd? Can parents who want to have their kids tested, do you see that, there's going to be a backlog there?
Anybody who wants to get tested over the break, I think, can utilize any of the LA County sites or their physician at that point in time, but there won't be staffing since we're not, the district is closed. There will not be staff at the testing site during that break.
Great, thank you.
And we will keep those options on the website the way they are now, the links if people are looking for testing sites outside of beach cities.
Yeah, so I know this is something a lot of parents have, or at least some parents have been asking for, having this optional testing locally. The funding for this, we've been working on this for a while, though we couldn't have offered it earlier because it was moving through the process and we needed to apply for the grant. So this is something new we're finally able to offer, which is great. One of the questions, so this is something that would be available if my kid wakes up with something that's symptomatic, or even if it's just the sniffles, I could get them tested here if I wanted to, just for peace of mind, or to comply with the health orders.
Correct, yes.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Does anyone else have any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the Redondo Beach Unified School District SR3 Expenditure Plan presentation by Dr. Susan Wilds.
So I know this is the presentation you all have been waiting for, so you're welcome. Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we want to give you a quick overview of the proposed Redondo Beach Unified School District SR3 Expenditure Plan. So a little bit of background before we get in, because you're going to hear over the last probably year, you've heard a lot of acronyms, so I just want to kind of clarify where SR3 sits. So this is in response to the coronavirus, the U.S. Congress passed the American Rescue Plan Act. That was signed into law on March 11th of 2021. So this is the third federal stimulus funding act in response to COVID. So the first one was the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security CARES Act. That was SR1. Then we had the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act. That's the CRSA, SR2. So here comes SR3. The American Rescue Plan Act requires that local agencies, those are the districts, that receive these fundings have to do two things. One, we have to have a plan for safe in-person instruction. Redondo Beach had that plan in place well back into the winter of 2021. Then the second part is this expenditure plan for how these funds are going to be used. And as along with all of the different one-time fundings you heard Ms. Soberling talk about, there's always allowable expenditures, and this one is no different. And the goal of this plan is to address students' academic, social, emotional, and mental health needs, as well as any of those opportunity gaps that existed pre-COVID but were exacerbated by COVID. So there are a few requirements of this plan. The first one, our total allocation, you can see there in the pink, $3,191,000, $438. Sorry, I have to sneeze, I'm dying to. At least 20% of that money has to be used in related to addressing the academic impact. So there is a requirement that we take 20% off the top. $638,287 have to be put aside for academic to impact for those instructional time. The second part is that we have those actions in the plan that address that impact must be evidence-based interventions. The remaining funding has to be consistent with the act. And a key tenet of this particular grant is that we really have to think about how will we meaningfully hold consultation with our stakeholders in our RBUSD community. So I'm going to speak to that in just a moment. It needs to be approved by you all, the Board of Education, and then it has to be submitted to the Los Angeles County Office of Education within 5 days of that approval, and the entirety of the plan is due by November 1st. So one of the ways we sat down and we thought, how can we meaningfully reach out to our community and try to get a sense of where people are, what their input, what their feedback is, related to what we can spend money on in this plan. So the first thing we did is we put together an SR3 stakeholder survey. So the question was, what input did that survey provide for us? So the survey collection period was open from September 10th to October 1st. We had approximately 1,134 survey responses. And you can see the breakdown. The majority of the respondents in this survey were our parents. The second largest group was our certificated staff. And many of the respondents indicated that they belonged to either an English language learner subgroup, they were part of our low-income population, or students with disabilities. So out of this survey, there were really 3 main priorities that we interpreted for the planning team. The number one thing that came away from this survey was that our respondents were asking for high-quality instruction and learning materials. The second was they were asking for academic supports and extended learning opportunities. Those extended opportunities oftentimes were asked for in the form of extended school day, tutoring, extended school days, summer school, before school, after school, enrichments. There was a variety, but academic supports and extended learning opportunities were a big takeaway. And then a close tie really came in between high quality instructional technology and mental health services. And we kind of disaggregated mental health services a little bit further in the survey. Some additional key takeaways from the survey is that parents and families indicated that they were requesting support in study skills at home, social and emotional needs, supporting their students in the home, reading strategies, and math support. The other big takeaway when we asked, well, what does high quality technology look like for you? What does that mean? Well, 45.1% said Chromebooks. So thank you, Board of Education. We have Chromebooks for our students. But the second biggest area in terms of supporting technology being supported in our classroom came in the form of interactive television monitors and document cameras. And we do have document cameras, but those two we're talking about a little bit more connected in the plan. So then we took all that data survey, and one of the things we know about data is important to have many eyes look at it. So we reconvened our Redondo Beach LCAP stakeholder committee, and that stakeholder committee is made up of school site council representatives from each and every one of our schools, our district English language learner advisory group president, members from every one of our bargaining units, PTAs. We even had representatives from the Southwest SELPA. And when we sat in a room and we wanted to really kind of interpret the data, what was the data telling us? What were our takeaways? What are the implications for planning? So some highlights in the plan I want to point out. We heard very clearly that our families are asking for supports. So in the plan, you're going to see high dosage tutoring. You're going to see after school enrichments for students. Sure. It's a great question. So when you look at the research that comes out of districts and especially some of the research out of Katrina, when we think about having students recover from learning loss, the research points very clearly to 2 areas. One is acceleration, and one is considered high dosage tutoring. And high dosage means it's not a one and done. So students would receive tutoring over a series of time. So if we're looking at providing support to a student who maybe who's struggling in an Algebra 1 class, we wouldn't just offer one 1-hour tutoring session and never come back. We would offer 5 or 6 over time because the research indicates it's the connection and the relationship between the tutor and the 2D that really is the difference maker in student achievement. Good question though. Professional development for special education teachers around the Orton-Gillingham multisensory approach to teaching literacy. Professional development for our teachers in trauma-informed practices, mental health services, supplemental counseling services, additional co-teaching special education teacher at the high school to support the expansion of our students in need, high-quality instructional materials for our world languages department in our secondary schools, classroom interactive TV monitors to support in-person instruction and engagement, parent education, and finally, some replacement of some of our outdoor landing pads on our playgrounds to ensure safety. So the draft of our plan can be found on our website, www.rbusd.org, under Educational Services, under our LCAP page. Any questions?
Dr. Wilds,
Sure.
what's the process? Where are we in the process of where the money gets spent exactly, and by what date?
Well, this particular plan has to be spent by September of 2025. We have lots of different plans with different dates. Once you all approve the plan, then we would go forward and we would submit to the Los Angeles County Office of Education. The Los Angeles Office of Education would then approve our plan, and then we would go forward with the expenditures. So many of the items in this plan you'll see have different years and kind of dates, but it's pretty much a three-year plan.
Okay.
Sorry, just very excited to see this funding available to support our students in recovering from the impacts of the pandemic. There's so many things in here we wouldn't be able to fund otherwise. It's really going to be helpful. Looking at the TVs in particular, these are going to be replacing the existing projectors we have in classrooms?
Absolutely. So currently, document cameras are used in our classrooms. It's a key teaching technology tool our teachers utilize. In a lot of our classrooms, that document camera is connected to a projector. That projector sits at a set location in the classroom, projects up onto the screen. The difficulty and the challenge for teachers utilizing that is that because it's a set location, oftentimes, depending on where you're seated in the room, makes it more or less difficult to see. Secondary, we have a lot of our classrooms that have this beautiful natural light. Well, natural light, unfortunately, can impede being able to see the board. And so if you've taken a walk through Madison Elementary and seen those beautiful 75-inch TVs, it's game-changing. So it increases students' ability to not only see what's being projected, the teacher can use it as almost like a co-teacher within the classroom.
That's fantastic. This is a tool that our teachers can use to better teach and our students can learn better from. So I'm excited about all this. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So this ESSER funding, once we submit and get approval, that's when they would fund these different things. There are no conditions tied to any of this money, are there?
Absolutely none. No,
Okay.
just that
Other
you
that we
approve.
spend it on what we say we're going to spend it on.
Absolutely. So these are the allowable expenditures, and you'll see even within the plan, we've included all of the instructions so everybody can see what are allowable expenses under this particular fund of money.
If you don't mind, I'm just going to interject. Ed Services puts a lot of work into putting the plans together, but there is a lot of responsibility around fiscal reporting. So Administrative Services Department is the one that provides the fiscal reporting to ensure that it's like a check and balance system to ensure that the plans that they put in place and that you approve are actually expended in the ways that you have authorized.
Perfect. Does anyone have any other questions?
Yeah, just real quick. Thank you, Dr. Wilds. I know you did put a lot of effort into this. I'll say a couple detailed questions, but we're coming up under 12.2 for this as far as the actual plan itself that you
Yes.
put forward. I'll save it for then. But great background on it to help everybody understand kind of just the overview, where it came from and what's the basis of it. So
Absolutely.
thank you.
Anything else? All right. Thanks, Dr. Wiles. Dr. Keller, Superintendent's Report.
Yeah, I just have a few things. First of all, wanted to acknowledge Dr. Wesley and her entire team. They had a classified job fair on October 14th, and we had over 200 visitors attend that job fair at South Bay Adult School. So out of that 280 were interviewed, and 34 actually of these folks who showed up had jobs and or substitute jobs in our district. So a day well spent, and to the entire team, want to thank Dr. Wesley and the entire team. Also want to note here, I have a slide here. This is for parents that are ready. We're hearing that the FDA was looking at this today for vaccine clinics or the vaccination for 5 to 11-year-olds. And RBUSD and Beach Cities Health District will again provide options for our parents who are ready for this vaccine for this particular cohort. Obviously, we're going to wait CDC's recommendation, but we have at least started this planning. And so the pop-up clinics, as you see, will be at Washington and Toledo, so we have a north-south there for convenience. The anticipated offering of the 2-dose clinics, we have the dates there. For dose 1, dose 2 for Washington and Toledo. Again, this is pending full approval or authorization, I should say. And the pop-up clinics will operate 3:30 to 6:30. We wanted to make sure our parking lots and facilities had plenty of room and access, because we do think we will receive plenty of folks coming through our schools at this time. We do not pay for this vaccine, RBUSD does not, and we're just waiting for the confirmation of the details, including sign-up process and what have you. We'll obviously get that out to parents at the appropriate time, but we wanted to just prep folks that we will be offering this in conjunction with Beach Cities Health District at the appropriate, the notification at the appropriate time. And then wanted to remind people that on Monday is a staff development day, a professional development day, and therefore there will be no students on campus. And of course, everybody have a happy and safe Halloween on Sunday. Thanks.
Sunday Halloween.
Quick question. Doctor, do we have an indication of what vaccines will be made available for that?
My understanding is the Pfizer.
And only Pfizer at this time?
That's the only thing that's under consideration for.
Yep.
Any other questions? All right. Next up, we have the hearing section, but before we begin, I just want to review the rules that govern our public board meetings. Face coverings must be worn at all times in the boardroom, including while speaking. Anyone not adhering to this mandate will be asked to leave the room. Audience members in this room are here to observe. Please do not disrupt the meeting or other audience members or speakers. If you do, we'll ask you to leave, and you can submit public comments in writing and watch the board meeting on your personal device. During the appropriate time on the agenda, I'll invite citizens to speak concerning any item on the agenda or other matter within the subject matter jurisdiction of the school district. This is not meant to be a debating period. Complaints and problems related to policy matters will be referred to the superintendent. Persons who have complaints against board members or the staff are encouraged to seek resolution of those complaints by utilization of the district's written complaint procedure rather than orally addressing them in a meeting. Speakers are cautioned that under California law, no person is immune from liability for making intentionally false or defamatory comments regarding any person simply because those comments are made in a public meeting. We thank you for your participation. I've got about 12 people with advanced written requests. So when I call up those speakers, when we recognize you, we'll just ask if you say your name and your affiliation with the district. And at that time, Dr. Keller will start the timer for 3 minutes. The yellow light will flash when there's 1 minute left to wrap up. We are not yielding time to other speakers. And the board can limit time for total public input on each item to 20 minutes, or we can increase with the board consent. But I think if we stick to this 12, we should be able to get through everyone here today. First up, we have Christina Mickler. To a different part in the agenda? At the time of discussions? Okay. Okay. I've got Marie Peterbar.
I have gifts. These are all for you. My name is Marie Peterbar, and I'm here on behalf of the board of the South Bay Artist Collective, which I am a part of. Our mission is to cultivate creativity, consciousness, and connection through the arts. The kids, teachers, volunteer students, and high schoolers all came together to create these gifts in a show of solidarity and appreciation for all of your service to our community. Now, we know when you guys signed up to be board members, you thought it was going to be hard, but you had no idea it was going to be like this. I got yelled at waiting out there, and I didn't even say anything. The threats and the abuse have been relentless, and they are front page news. While we can all agree to disagree, the personal insults, the vitriol, is counterproductive to something we all agree on. We all care about the city and its schools, and we all want what's best for the kids and the students. And that's it. The Redondo Beach School District is comprised of about 10,000 students. So I'm not that great at math, but assuming 2 kids per household, let's just say it's 10,000 parents. It's comforting to know that looking at the group of dissatisfied parents at Redondo Beach, if you look at maybe social media or the number of people showing up for certain events, that if you even round up to 500, that's only 5% of people that are really mad. So that means 95% of people love what you do. They're really happy here. The problem is those people aren't as organized or as funded, or people don't just call to say thank you. So we all know that, people are misdirecting a lot of anger at all of you. And we are really, really sorry for that, because you don't deserve that. You're serving the community and you're volunteers and you work hard and you have great intentions. But regardless of anybody's political view or what they believe, you're serving the community. So this small token, so these were done by kids, this is it's spray paint. It's a dove and there's hearts. And this is the indivisible symbol, and it's a division sign with an X through it. And on the side, these are all from kids. It's thank you for all you do. You can do it. Onwards and upwards. And there's signed cards in there. So please just know that on behalf of the community, you're probably going to have, maybe if those people come in, it's going to be a tough meeting tonight. But the community really loves you, and the community really appreciates you. And we just want to say thank you. So I'm going to just kind of, it's for the board members and Steve Keller, so I'll just pass it around, and you guys can take your cards. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, Jerome Chang.
Good afternoon. My name is Jerome Chang, and I'm a parent of 2 young kids in elementary school. I've been a resident for 10 years. I just wanted to, in light of FDA's recent announcement today that they approved the EUA for 5 to 11-year-olds, and with the pending approval from CDC next week, we should be able to get all our elementary school kids vaccinated and safe in the indoor environment that they're in all day. I did want to congratulate the teachers and other staff members of RBUSD. They are over 90% vaccinated. Thank you, Dr. Wesley. In addition, our teens are 87% vaccinated. That's 12 to 17-year-olds, and that's for the entire city. That's very good. What's pretty interesting is that the adults between 18 and 64 are only 82% vaccinated. That tells me that those parents of these teens are more likely to be vaccinated than the general adult population. To reframe this, that means that the parents of our RBUSD community is probably over 87% vaccinated, which means only 10 or 13%, under 13%, so far are not yet vaccinated. And so whatever is the vocal and the public feedback on what's going on with this district, I just want to let you know that there is a statistical overwhelming majority among many of us who support what you're doing, what the county and the state are doing, and we look forward to a continued safe classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Michelle Jones. You might want to pull the microphone down to your mouth when you're ready. No problem.
Oh, I can't find it. That's okay. Thank you for and letting me speak today. My name is Michelle Jones, and I'm the godmother of Stetson, who is a student at Redondo Unified School District. I'm here to speak for voices that you have not heard. Voices that could be stifled by a vaccine that is still unproven and yet is being steamrolled through the public health voice. This unproven mRNA changes your DNA. Bill Gates has said this will cut into your DNA. Now, if you were asked to take a vax that would change your DNA, would you do it? That's the question. Okay. But it's being fear-mongered as a panacea for preventing the dreaded COVID-19. We've all heard Israel has 80% vax rate, and yet the hospitals are filled with primary vax people. Young boys in England have been vaxxed and have died from the vax. This vax has been marketed to take this vaccination and change your DNA. How many of you in this world would have lined up for that? Not me. I remember taking a sugar cube when I was a child in school for polio. No one in my school was hurt, and it was through the mouth. It wasn't injected into my body. This is an mRNA. It's not a vaccination. It travels through your body, so you can have blood clots, you can have myocarditis in your heart. Will you submit these sweet children to life where their DNA is changed? To what? Do we know? What is this change going to be? Are we going to be responsible for the legal action of the adverse effects? I know you guys have all thought about this, and I know that a majority of the people are going to be vaccinated. But let me tell you, 7 weeks ago, I was in one room. We were all performing. There was 20 of us. Half were vaxxed, half were not. Some were wearing masks, some were not. We all got COVID. There's not one person in that room that didn't get COVID. We all survived. We are all healthy. We are all people that want to know why we are not using a therapeutic. The reason we're not using a therapeutic is because if there was a therapeutic, there could not be a vaccine for it. And these people who are making a lot of money and giving you guys a lot of money in the school district are now benefiting from all of the money that we're giving them from our pocketbooks as a taxpayer. So I want to thank you all. I know you have hard decisions to make, and I know you have health decisions to make. So I appreciate you all, but I had to speak for those who don't have voices right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, I have Shauna Reppy. Reppy, did I pronounce it correctly? Yes. Great. Thanks.
Hi, I'm a parent of kids at Redondo Union. I'm a widowed mom, and I protect my kids from harm the best I know how. And I know the news that natural immunity versus the shot is the winner in this debate over protection, even up to 13 times better protection to have already had it, which we've already had it. I've had great concerns in light of the horrifying numbers of injury from the COVID injections being pushed. Horrible, horrible, terrible things happening to children and adults that have not been out in the public domain. I have access to information that is not on the news, and the numbers are astounding. Please remember the indemnified pharmacological industry's past mistakes. Pfizer alone has not been very well behaved. Criminal acts and tons in billions in fines. We need more time to see what's at stake. We all need more time to adjust to the information. We need to see how deep the wrong and the paid-for medical information has infiltrated the minds of our leaders at the FDA, at the CDC, which were not voted into their positions. The silenced voices of health practitioners from all over the globe need to be addressed and considered. The assault on our godly design and our God-given rights is astounding. Please leave our kids to be normal, immunologically sound beings. Let us deal with this pathogen naturally. And please, let's not cause any harm by making it mandated. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Donna Taylor.
Hello, my name is Donna Taylor, and I'm a concerned mother of 5. I would like to start by quickly reading something. The voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. This means that the person involved should have legal capacity to give consent, should be so situated as to be able to exercise free power of choice without the intervention of any element of force, fraud, deceit, duress, overreaching, or other ulterior form of constraint or coercion. In case you are unaware of where this came from, it is part of the Nuremberg Code, which is international law that is repeatedly being broken, and you are all complicit in it. I'm sorry, I do not think I need to break down how and why it is very clear you are all overreaching your power with these illegal and unconstitutional mandates. As of October 15th, there have been 17,128 COVID vaccine deaths reported to VAERS. A study conducted by Harvard determined how many vaccine adverse reactions and deaths are actually reported to VAERS, and it's estimated it is fewer than 1%. 1%. So the amount of damage caused by these experimental injections is far more horrifying than people think. In addition to that, more deaths have been reported to VAERS from these COVID shots than all other vaccines combined in the last 30 years. Our children have a near 0% chance of dying from this virus, 0.0007%. Yet the board thinks it is necessary to force this vaccine in our children as a part of a science experiment in order to have a free and public education. None of us know the long-term effects this will have on humanity, and this cannot be ignored. Children are more likely to die in a car crash, drowning, homicide, and the flu, just to name a few. The science tells us that these injections do not stop infection or transmission. So why mandate something that does nothing to stop the spread? Would you be okay with mandating chemotherapy to healthy children who had a near 0% chance of dying from cancer? What I'm proposing tonight is honoring parental choice and medical freedom, and the discrimination and segregation of unvaccinated, healthy children. All of us learned long ago how deplorable discrimination and segregation is. Why is it all of a sudden acceptable now? Not only accepted, but praised. Everyone has a God-given right to breathe freely and decide what they want to put into their body, and no one can take that away from us. Not the government, not the president, nor the school board. Again, these are our inalienable rights given to us by God, and I just want to be clear. This has nothing to do with being anti-vaccine, anti-mask, or anti-anything. It's simply freedom. Lucerne Valley School District in California has unanimously voted against mandating.
How much longer do you have? That's the 3-minute time limit. Does the board wish to extend?
I just want to leave you all with this. I am not up here for my children only. I'm up here for all of your children and your grandchildren, and I will never back down. I will never give up, and I will continue to be a voice for the children. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next up, we have Ross Lagumia? Did I pronounce it?
Thank you. That's perfect. I was just asked a couple of hours ago to stop in and speak. So, coming on the heels of these individuals, I don't have the statistics, but I have been here for 11 years in Redondo. I do have 2 kids, 2 daughters, and I too would represent every other child. I love that we started with the Pledge of Allegiance. I love those last couple of words: liberty, and justice for all, liberty for us all. One of the things that brought us to California from New York 10 years ago was the freedom here to make choices, such as what's happening right now. I'm going to segue to something entertaining, and that is you've all seen these commercials, right? It could be for tennis elbow, right? If you've got tennis elbow and your life is suffering, it's not what it should be, you're in pain, try this new, oxy, plexi, whatever they want to name it, fancy word. It will fix your life, but there's side effects, right? Be careful that you might have anal fissures, your hearing loss, you might die, be depressed, you might be suicidal, you might kill your spouse, you might have this incredible list of things. I know you've all seen these commercials, but if you want to get rid of that tennis elbow, then please try our product. See your doctor and see if it's right for you, okay? Now, I think really in total, what the point I want to bring across is, again, the right to make our own decisions. I don't judge the people that take that medication. I hear it differently than they do. If they're in pain and they think it's worth rolling the dice for that medication, let them. I don't believe it's worth rolling the dice on my children in this situation. I love that they're offering vaccinations. I love that they're offering the testing. And I believe strongly that that's the way it should remain. If kids show up and they've got some sort of a indication, then sure, test them, take them out, if that's going to be the protocol, right, just to manage it. But we're not on fire. These kids are not dying off by the dozens. No one needs to come in and inject them with something that is completely untested. And I guarantee you, I think if we had a conversation over gin and tonic, I think you would all agree that every one of us is just a guinea pig in the medical industry, right? They're constantly testing out new drugs in all sorts of arenas, including this one now. And I apologize, my kids will not be part of that guinea pig pool. So please, what I saw tonight actually gives me great hope. Let the kids be tested if they need to be tested. If the parents choose to be tested, let them be vaccinated if the parents choose those kids to be vaccinated. But leave the rest of our kids out if we don't believe that they need medication. Let them have their tennis elbow. I'm okay with that. So anyway, thank you for listening. I hope that was partially entertaining. I do appreciate you all for the hard positions that you maintain. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, we have Kurt Baker.
Hello, my name's Kurt Baker. I think you remember me from last time. I have a daughter at a school district, and I'm here to discuss a few things. I don't have a lot of faith in you because I know I live in a liberal state and a liberal city, and it seems like from the presentations I've already seen that you're just going to continue following whatever is spoon-fed to you by the state and the federal government. Let's go over some numbers first. All right, COVID. Up to date, 724,000 deaths. How many of those were children under the 18 and under? 637 children have died in 22 months. And still you're talking about a vaccine. Let's talk about this vaccine. It's not really a vaccine. All it does is abate symptoms. It was never intended for children. It was originally designed for people at high risk. That was its purpose, not for this. Let's talk about masking. Study just released in June. Assessment of carbon dioxide in healthy children wearing masks. It finds out that children wear masks, their CO2 rate goes up to between over 1%, 1.5% to 3%. And that, according to OSHA, is a violation. So you're actually violating OSHA guidelines by forcing kids to wear masks. And let me see if this sounds familiar, if anybody's got kids. Common symptoms of what's called hypercapnia, fatigue, anxiety, inability to concentrate, headaches, flushing, dizziness, shortness of breath. Speaking of shortness of breath, rapid breathing. It can go on. It can produce muscle twitches, seizures. And I know a girl in my daughter's PE class last year actually had a seizure. So this is how you're actually violating OSHA guidelines. If this was a workplace, you'd be fined. And those values are reached in 3 minutes of mask wearing, where these kids are wearing these things for hours. All right, let's go on next. Let's talk about CRT. All right, and if you're thinking about CRT maybe here, it's already here. I've been reviewing my daughter's homework in her history class for the last several months. About 60% of it is spent on colonial racism, colonizing is evil. We took everything from the Indians. This is where slavery began, and on and on and on. This is what she has been exposed to relentlessly in one classroom. I have repeatedly asked her teacher for full curriculum over the last couple of weeks, and I've failed to receive it. So I have here a FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act. So I'm going to know who your agent of service is so I can hand it over to them later on. Here's some parts of what the California Ethnic Studies program has.
That's the 3 minutes. Does the board wish to extend his time? We're not yielding time to folks. Does the board wish to finish? We're not, I said that at the very beginning of this meeting. We're not yielding time to other people. Does the board wish to give Mr. Baker any longer time? I'm talking to the board, ladies and gentlemen. This is not.
20 seconds, 20, 30 seconds.
Do I hear a motion to extend for 20 seconds?
It's 20 seconds.
Sure.
I'm fine. Yeah.
Is that okay with everyone?
Yep.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, here's a framework from Bridging Cultures. This fostering independent and individual achievement is considered white individualism. Promoting cognitive development, playing with toys, investigating the world by themselves is considered white individualism. Associating with private property, if a child believes that something actually belongs to them, that's white individualism. Here's what the other end is, what's called color group collectivism. That the teacher is just as important as the parents. And the parents' role is to socialize, and the teachers are the authority.
Thank you. Ms. Mickler, would you like to go now, or do you want to wait till later? Okay. Next up, I have Mahtab Almquist. Did I pronounce it correctly? Great.
Ooh, my legs are shaking. Okay. Hi to the board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'll try to keep the nerves inside, which is really hard at this point. My name is Mahtab Almquist. I'm a mom of 2 daughters in this district. We escaped from Santa Monica 7 months ago and now find ourselves facing yet another school board making extremely strange decisions. However, today I will focus on the upcoming vaccine mandates that we all know will probably show up. The FDA's approval of the vaccine does not mean that the RBUSD school board has to follow that. Mr. Newsom made it very clear that the districts have a choice of their own to make. And many districts have made it clear they will stand over this rushed decision. The question is, why aren't you taking this choice or decision? The doctors at FDA behind the approval couldn't have been more clear about how heavy this decision is in their hearts. They do not believe that every child should have this vaccine. A quote from one of the doctors at the approval today said, "The best thing for the kids at this stage is to do nothing." This virus is not killing them nor harming them. More than 99% of all kids survive this vaccine. They do not need the masks nor the vaccine to be just fine. Let's be very clear, I'm not anti anything, whatever you guys say here in the front. I am very much pro-choice. I took the vaccine in an effort to get my kids to school and the society to open up. It's now very clear that that was a mistake from my side. I would love for this board to have an open discussion with us parents, where we can talk to each other as humans, ask questions, and maybe even get some answers from you guys. I just have to say that this whole BS about us parents harassing the school board is just that. It's BS. You may be volunteering, however, it's paid, and you're very welcome to step down whenever you wish. I come in peace. However, the life of my children is way more important than making you feel nice and comfy up there. Being from Sweden, I'm very sad to see this one-way monologue that's going on here, staring into your computer and phones. Meanwhile, you already have a plan up there how to vaccinate our kids with these stupid pods in school. Thank you.
Thanks. Next, we have Rabin Havasi.
Hey, school board. I'm just speaking from my heart because, I want you to look at the pictures on the walls behind you over there. Kids doing activities, sports, volleyball, that's what keep them healthy. Healthy kids, they don't need the vaccine to stay healthy. But to read in the newspapers that kids being refused to do their sport just because they don't vaccinated, it just break my heart. I mean, look at these kids. We take that from them. I'm a dad of a 12-year-old and a 6-year-old. 3 weeks ago, I went with my 12-year-old to the ER because she tried to kill herself. My job as a dad and a friend is to keep my friends and family and kids safe. So my voice today is to try to keep my kids safe. Do you, board members, want to vaccinate your kids, even if the vaccine, the liquid we inject is an experimental thing? I don't think so. And as my wife said, the FDA meeting today showed clearly that they vote against their will. Our president ordered 65 million doses. They are basically forced to approve it. And as the superintendent showed on his screen, anticipated FDA approval. Do you think the FDA have a choice? Do you think they should waste 65 million doses? They are forced to approve it. I'm done.
Thank you. Next up, we have Christine Balazas.
Hi, my name's Christine Ballas, and I'm a mom of a 12-year-old. I wanted to really quickly address, I wasn't going to address this, but since we talked about it earlier, is Fulgent Genetics, which is a Chinese genetic DNA collection company. And there's a California law that says your genetic information is confidential and personal to you and cannot be released without your consent. And we're forcing people to sign up on this Fulgent website. And when you start reading through the fine print of the survey on the website, the attorneys have discovered that they're not only granting them the Fulgent Genetics is granting access to use, and you're giving them the ability to distribute and your genetic data however they see fit. But it also gives them access to your financial information or personal identifying information, including your social security number, and it clearly states in the fine print that we give them permission to disseminate it, store it, or otherwise utilize it, however they see fit, even in foreign countries. This is really disturbing. So I just want to make that note because I found that somewhat disturbing that we're using Fulgent. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm speaking on behalf of, there may be 500 people here, and some say that's not enough, but I'm speaking on behalf of, I have many, many friends that would love to be here and just can't due to circumstances with their children. People don't want to bring their kids here, things like that. But one of my first questions to you all is, how much have you studied this vaccine? How much do you know about it? How much time have you spent on the VAERS website? How much time have you looked at the CDC website? I know as a parent, we have spent hours and endless hours studying the VAERS website. We've downloaded information. We have, I've downloaded the deaths on the VAERS website. The spreadsheet was so big that I couldn't even email it. It was so large. By a raise of hands, I'd like to just know how many of you have been on the VAERS website and spent countless hours downloading information. And yeah, it looks like the people here that have done that are the ones that understand what's really going on. I'd ask you guys to just do that. Just go on the VAERS website, look at the information, go on the CDC website, and look at the information of who is dying. You will see the people dying are the ones with extreme comorbidities. The average death rate is 76 old, older than our death rate. The kids are not at risk. So you stated earlier that you're bringing in the Pfizer vaccine. Can someone tell me here when the studies are going to be complete on the Pfizer vaccine? Do you guys know that? Does anyone know that? Do you understand that? The Pfizer studies are not to be complete until the estimated date of completion is 7/30/2023. That's almost 2 years from now. That's very, very scary to me. The Moderna, 10/27/2022. We're in the middle of the studies. We are the studies. Our children, you're asking our children to be the studies. You can go to clinicaltrials.gov and you can see this. So anyway, I have a lot more to say, but I won't. But I just want you to know, I'm just asking you and begging you to think about our children and just wait till these studies are done. Just don't push this on our kids, okay? And if you do, we just all need to pull our kids from public school. We have to. You're forcing our hand. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next up, we have Susanna Shield.
I'm sure you all realize there's a mass exodus out of California. Why? Because you're now coming after people's livelihood and their children. We are standing here today for the police that are losing their jobs, for the firemen who are losing their jobs, for hospital workers, doctors and nurses, frontline workers who are losing their jobs. Are you listening to the parents? These are their children. They're not owned by the state. In the name of Jesus, listen to these parents, because you will stand in front of God one day and you will be judged for what you're doing to humanity. This is crimes against humanity and genocide in the biggest proportion, bigger than Auschwitz. Let's take this for where it came from. It's coming from the World Economic Forum. You know who that is, Klaus Schwab. He's the one that's controlling every single government around the country. You think this is by coincidence that there's a plandemic? This is not coincidence. This is coming from the highest powers that are giving you money and putting money in your pocket so that you are putting face diapers on yourselves. Who would have ever thought this would have happened 2 years ago? And doing this to our children when they have a 99.998% chance of recovery? Why aren't we talking about natural immunity at all? What about us who have had the COVID virus? Because there are 15 of us together in a Bible study and a mom walks in, just got her Moderna shot, and become a super spreader. Just like the CDC director says, they become super spreaders. And we all 10 of us come down with COVID. Did any of us die? No. We took our vitamins. We stayed home and quarantined. And now, what do you want to do? You're not even talking about the antibodies that most of our children have because they've gotten this from adults. That was manufactured in the Wuhan lab, as now has been revealed. Dr. Fauci is lying to all of you. And you're standing here with a tyrannical government, with the CCP. Go to Great Barrington Declaration. Over 15,000 doctors, over 45,000 doctors, 14,000 scientists who have been warning the alarms that you are causing genocide. Do you want to leave this behind as a legacy, even if you don't have children? You are the cause because our children are now being mandated. Stand up against this tyrannical government. That's why we had freedom. That's why we have forefathers that came here as Christ followers. Some of you may be Jewish. In this book, in the Old Testament, it says the life of the flesh is in the blood, and you are corrupting it, and Satan is corrupting it. So I ask you to stand with the Americans of the United States of America and fight against the CCP. Fight against what's happening in this world, because America was founded on freedom. Give us that
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Next up, we have Eric Lapetite.
That would be me.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. My name is Eric Lepetit. I'm a father of 3 boys who go to Lincoln, Adams, and Redondo High, all COVID survivors, all of them. I'm a staff engineer at Google. I strongly believe that science and data should drive decisions. And I'm going to start with today's FDA committee. How many pro-science in this room watched the 5-hour-long committee? I did. My wife did. One expert justifying his decision said, "We're never going to learn about how safe the vaccine is until we start giving it." How does that make you feel to know our children are part of this experimentation? The committee also made it clear that they were asked to answer whether the vaccine should be allowed in order to make it available to children who need it, but not whether to mandate them. They made it clear, this is your responsibility. Do you know how many children have died in California since the beginning of the pandemic? 37 out of 680,000 cases, known cases. That's a mortality rate of 0.005%, 1 in 200,000. The same odds of being struck by lightning, okay? So let's look at the risk. If you haven't heard about the rare risk of myocarditis from the vaccine, you're not paying attention. Are you aware that in the last few weeks, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, Norway, Iceland, and now France, my country, have stopped injecting Moderna to people under 31 years old because of the risk of myocarditis? According to a recent publication from the Ontario Public Health, 1 young adult in 8,000 developed that disease post-vaccination. Myocarditis has a mortality rate of 10%. Let's do some quick math. Let's say we vaccinate all 9 million children in California. We save 37 lives thanks to the vaccine, assuming it's 100% effective. By doing that, 1,100 children will develop a heart inflammation. 112 children will die from it. We will kill 112 children to save 37 from the COVID. And if you're still not convinced, maybe you'll take the words of Dr. Harvey Risch, professor of epidemiology at Yale School of Public Health. He's a medical doctor and a PhD and the most academically seated American epidemiologist alive today. He stated a couple of days ago, "I will pull a healthy child out of public school and homeschool them before giving them the vaccine. You have been officially warned," I'm finishing please, thank you, "of the risk. As loving parents, we have the right to assess the risk and benefits of an experimental injection in the arms of our children. Think critically. You have an opportunity to make a difference for the love of our children." Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Pam Kaplan.
Hi, I'm completely unrelated to everything that was just discussed.
Closer to your, pull the mic closer to, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my discussion is unrelated to COVID, except for the fact that I have a child who, last time I was here, didn't have a class or therapies or anything, but he does now. He finally got an independent study program through the Patricia Dreisler, I think you pronounce it, program. So I have that 8th grader. I have a junior at Redondo who's big in band. Watch the Rose Parade. That's all I'm going to say. Keep an eye out for her. And then I have a sophomore who actually attended Costa, partially related to a dance program and some math considerations. She's in UC Santa Barbara. Anyway, one quick aside, I noticed in the agenda something about camps and the schools that were planning camps for this year. And I noticed that Adams was not on that list. And Adams in general is a school that should be targeted, and camps are really big, particularly for people with disabilities. And just in general, they give students confidence. There's a lot of reasons to go. So I think with the change in administration, we just want to really support that if it's possible to get Adams in general to camp, that would be a good thing. And in general, for my youngest has a disability, which is a driver of why he was having a problem getting into the independent study program for this year. And just there's a bunch of us have been deemed the inclusion people, and we're just not really thrilled with how inclusion and just in general students with IEPs are included in the general education curriculum here at Redondo. Personally, the philosophy that's used and things that have happened and continue to happen with my son, it's a very dated philosophy. Inclusion Day, which is what I was kind of mentioning last time, there really isn't an Inclusion Day because in most places around our country, because students with disabilities generally are actually segregated and taught separately and not included in classes. So it's hard to have Inclusion Day when, in particular, my son had no classes at all whatsoever. But there's ways around that. We had a great, PTA had a great presentation, some of which was good, some of which was bad. I felt really bad for the family. That was very dated, and the presentation last Tuesday, I had some profound disagreements with the parent advocate standpoint. But kids with disabilities are basically the canary in the coal mine, and they getting the appropriate training through Club 21 and other factors out there really can educate all of our children better. And there is no segregation in the community. The least of our students and the highest and the lowest ends of the spectrum are really where we need to include, and the rest all, we improve our practices like the TVs and all that stuff, engaging children, as we all learned so much during Zoom. Just getting everyone included is really where we need to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Jen Chatterjee. Did I pronounce it correctly?
Hello. I wasn't really going to speak today, but I just have a few little points to talk about. First of all, I recovered from COVID. I have a letter with my antibodies and a letter from my doctor saying I'm not contagious. And I did just fine. And my 10-year-old got it too, and she was sick for less than 24 hours. This is the deal. They cannot mandate a vaccine if there's treatments for at home. And if they can't mandate a vaccine, they can't sell them. And these people are becoming billionaires. You might not like Project Veritas because it doesn't show with your politics, but they did undercover interviews with people that worked at Pfizer. And they said natural immunity is way, way better, lasts longer. I'm safer, unless there's a couple other people have recovered, which I know one just left you, than any of you that have been vaccinated. My friend just got COVID after her 2 vaccinations a few months ago, and she was way sicker than I was. I recovered at home. My daughter was 24 hours. So this is my paperwork. I shouldn't even have to wear this face diaper, and I have asthma, and you keep giving me dirty looks, Rolf. Like, she freaked out, the other lady. Oh, you're sitting so close to me. So this is my first quote. God. A mind full of fear has no room for its own thoughts. We are not, I have 4 daughters. One's at UCLA and had to get vaccinated, and she has a blood disorder and couldn't even get a medical note. That's how scared these doctors are to give medical notes to people. And all her classes were online last year. We are not teaching kids. They should be taught that as children in elementary school to be critical thinkers. Nobody is a critical thinker. It's mob mentality. It's sheep, bah, just sign me up, whatever. I'm not anti-vax. My kids have been vaxxed. I am anti-this vax. I, like the rest of them, have gone on VAERS. I've gone on all the COVID vaccine injuries. There are people that have died, kids, adults that have died. Many, many more than the 16,000, 17,000 that the CDC might admit to or the VAERS reports. Okay? So most people are not going to die from this. They're not, and children are not. So I'm safer, my daughter's safer. I can't put a toe on my campus because I'm not vaccinated. But they can have fundraisers galore and nobody's checking their vaccine passports. This is from Gandhi. And I can't get into it, I don't have enough time for critical race theory, but my husband's Indian and he's so anti this critical race crap. Civil disobedience becomes a sacred duty when the state becomes lawless or corrupt, which is what's happening not just in California, in our whole country. And people are pulling their kids out, and you're all going to lose money. They're pulling them out, and they're going to do homeschooling, microschooling. Yeah, rest in peace. This woman, little kids, 2 in Seattle died after her vaccine. And also, informed consent is impossible. A person told to take the shot could refuse on the grounds that he cannot obtain sufficient information in order to protect his consent. J&J official said no kids. Brandon Schnatt, Business Lee Johnson Johnson. You don't do that to kids. Kids should not have the shot. He's a Johnson Johnson person. Look him up. And then last thing.
Thank you.
This is my last thing. Scott Gottlieb used to work for the FDA, and he's Republican. I'm not even Republican. And now he's a Pfizer person. Stephen Hahn used to work for the FDA. Now he works for Moderna, or he's a big stockholder. James Smith, Reuters.
Thank you for your time, ma'am.
And then Anthony Fauci. NIH, and now he's the Institute of Virology. He is evil, and you guys need to open your eyes and see it.
Okay. Thank you. Next up, we have Rosie Johnson. No? Okay. Sheila Garcia?
How much, so I get my full 3 minutes?
Yep.
Am I allowed to yield time at all?
Nope.
No yielding time? Okay, so I want to know why you as a board have not expressed what is in the guidelines of the California, the CDC, and the public health. Why is it you guys haven't encouraged people to take the antigen, the saliva test? You say that you follow the rules, and in the 100 pages, somebody missed the antigen test. So your COVID czar, your commander, missed that people are supposed to be informed that they can take the antigen. How many of you were told that you could take the saliva test? Nobody. Oh, no. Okay, so so the person who was in charge, I believe it was Nicole Wesley, if a person isn't told what they can do, how are they able to exercise their informed consent if you didn't inform them, right? So I'm telling everybody right now that they can take an antigen test, but yet they've been forcing these kids to have an invasive medical procedure. So I'm going to sit out my time. Let's see. So I want you really to ponder that, okay? Because that is really a mistake to not let people know they could do the saliva test, especially the children. So I hope all the parents out there who have been swabbing the kids' nose because they want to do sports so bad that they could have taken a saliva test. How could you forget? How could you not tell someone that? Right, you know, yeah, let's think about that. You're supposed to be having meaningful engagement with the community. Meaningful. Transparency. Is that too much to ask? Is that too much to ask? You don't have to answer because you guys can't answer anyways. And you don't answer because at this part of the juncture, you're not supposed to anyways. We need to confront this destructive ideology that's being passed on. And I don't know what else. I'll put it in writing. I have papers here so that we're all up. I don't know who wants to accept these papers? I'm serving you guys. So where do I give it to? I could drop it like normally and say you guys have been served and you're all my witnesses. Yes. Or what's the procedure? What's protocol? Raymer, do I give this to you? Who accepts it? Give it to somebody and just have them serve them. Okay. So you've been served. Thank you, everyone. Have a
Thank
great
you.
evening.
Okay, now we're at the end. Christy Mickler, would you like to speak?
I just want to thank you. Thank you for letting me defer my time to the very end. I appreciate it. My name is Christina Mickler. It's Mickler, not Mickler, just so you know. I have 2 children in the school district. I have a daughter in elementary school, and I have a son in high school who's a freshman who's looking forward to a fun year. I just wanted to say I support the board. I really appreciate them putting together these micro pop-up clinics, and I look forward to attending them, and I appreciate what you guys do, and I fully support you and what the state's doing to mandate and make our schools safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gallegos, do we have anybody else? Okay. Okay, so we're waiting on one more? Oh, no, not speaking? Okay, perfect. All right, then we'll move on to the communications calendar. Redondo Beach Teachers Association.
Good evening, Dr. Keller, members of the board. My name is Sarah Robinson. I'm the president of the Redondo Beach Teachers Association and a Spanish teacher at RUHS. Just a couple things I wanted to mention. First off, I did want to thank all of the members of the district office staff as well as all of the staff throughout the district for putting together the Inclusion Day event that we did at RUHS. It was something really important and useful for both our students and our staff to join together and think about how we can be more inclusive. Our members continue to serve our district both in and outside of the classroom. I just wanted to highlight from the committees I can remember, these are current standing committees or task force that our members are serving on in addition to their classroom or school site duties. The Health Benefits Committee, the Race and Equity Committee, the Co-Teach Task Force, the Elementary ELA Adoption Committee, the Professional Development Committee, and also we have our Ed Council at the high school and then also our ILTs at our elementary and middle school. So our members are working hard both inside and outside their classrooms. I also, as the RBTA member on the LCAP and now SR3 planning group, I just wanted to highlight the really great collaboration and work we had from the dedicated parents who were at that meeting, as well as our CSEA colleagues and the administrators, and really working together to find the best possible uses for that funding that will support both teaching and learning across the district. So thank you very much, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Do we have anyone from CSEA or AFT? PTA, I think they spoke earlier. RBF spoke earlier. All right, moving on to general consent. Does anybody have any items they'd like to pull? Here.
Pull 10.5, please.
Anything else? Okay, can I get a motion and a second to approve 10.1 through 10.4 and 10.6 and 7?
So moved. Second, Strutzenberg.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Can I get a motion and second to begin discussion on item 10.5?
So moved, Elder.
Second.
Okay, go ahead.
So I just wanted to clarify, because the question came up. We're doing these science camps kind of in batches as schools submit them. So it's not that these are the only schools going. All the schools will be going. These are just the ones that we're currently approving. Is that correct?
Absolutely. They're coming in as soon as the schools get off the waiting list and they're able to do their final confirmations with the camps, then they submit their requests to Ed Services. In fact, Adams's just came through 2 days ago, so it'll show up on the next board agenda.
Perfect, thank you. So appreciate that. Just want to clarify, everyone's working on it, and hopefully they'll all get approved soon. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, all those in favor of 10.5 say aye. Aye. And opposed, motion carries. Okay, 12.1, can I get a motion and second to begin discussion of the approving an MOU between RBUSD and Beach Cities Health District for school COVID-19 testing?
So moved.
Okay. And is this you,
Yes.
Dr. Alpern?
This is, thank you. This is basically a backup data for document for the presentation that you heard tonight. We have been working with Beach City Health District since the beginning of COVID in March of 2020 to offer tests, test sites, et cetera, and coordinating with them. So they have provided to us a memorandum of understanding, which is an agreement with the details of their responsibilities, Beach City Health District responsibilities, as well as the school district responsibilities. And we will be able to, based on the activities that take place and the number of staff and the costs, we will be able to get reimbursed for those costs through the county grant.
And this, we are only charged for if the, based on usage, correct?
Yes. Okay. So we would.
And there's not a minimum
right.
required number of tests or anything like that?
No, we would anticipate that Beach City Health District will be providing us with monthly bills, monthly invoices, and those invoices will be submitted to LA County Office of Education, and then LA County Office of Education will reimburse us with the dollars. And then, so we're like the, kind of the pass-through, if you think about it in those terms.
Does anyone have any other questions? Okay. All right. You do? Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. That's after they take the insurance, though, correct?
So the tests is not something that we will likely actually be paying for. The bills that we will receive from Beach City Health District will likely be staff, personnel costs to work the testing sites and and the oversight of the monitoring of and information gathering. So that's because we had Dan had reached out to me and had some questions about this notion of like free tests for COVID. And I said, well, there really isn't any such thing as free. So depending on the lab, they're getting funded or reimbursed through FEMA, or they're getting reimbursed, like somebody's paying for it. Nobody, unfortunately or fortunately, nobody does this out of the goodness of their heart, right? So somebody's getting paid. We're not paying for the tests, and Fulgent will get reimbursed either through insurance, or they're going to get reimbursed for people who don't have insurance, probably through FEMA.
And again, this is completely optional. Nobody is required to use this testing for anything at RBUSD. It's another convenience we're offering to our families as we get into the cold and flu season as well.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
One no.
One no? Opposed? Okay. Motion passes 4-1. Okay, motion and second to discuss 12.2, the recommendation to adopt the RBUSD SR3 Expenditure Plan.
So moved.
Okay. Dr. Wild?
Yes. So as discussed earlier, all local educational agencies that receive elementary and secondary school emergency relief ESSER funds under the American Rescue Plan Act, otherwise known as ESSER3, are required to develop a plan for how they'll use their funding to address students' academic, social, emotional, and mental health needs. Staff recommend you approve this proposed plan.
Any questions?
Yeah, one question on the allocation for, I think it was proposed as like after-school programs and things like that, including Lego and so forth. The way it was written came across to me as being limited to somebody else had to actually provide that service to get funding. So is that the case, or these are typically parent-run, so could it just pay for the equipment that goes along with it?
So those are examples provided to, this plan then goes on to Los Angeles County Office of Education. So oftentimes they will request very specific examples, right, to clarify what the action is. Lego robotics, the robotics can be parent-run. The Lego, there are different companies that come in and do different types of Lego for younger children. Those are just some examples of some after-school enrichment programming that could be, this funding could be used for. So it could be, there are other companies outside of the first Lego robotics team. There are other companies that provide robotics, or they provide coding, they provide different types of enrichment programs. And so that's what this action, those
Okay, so
examples
it
are.
would not be for just purchasing equipment for like Lego robotics?
No, it would not be purchasing equipment. It would be for providing the program and the availability of the program for students. So typically, we have right now, in pre-COVID, parents could opt in for pay for after-school programs. The purpose of this action would be to fund that for students and for families. So it would not be a parent-paid program.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No abstentions? Okay, motion passes 5-0. All right. Moving on to any correspondence. Does anybody have correspondence they'd like to share? Did I miss the bylaws? Oh my gosh, I missed the entire discussion section. All right, let's move back to that. 14.1, first reading of the board bylaws. Do we need a motion and second to begin discussion? No, we're just going to open discussion on the first reading of the board bylaws. Does anyone have any questions about what they've received? Mr. Stratzenberg and I have spent a lot of time reading them. I know.
I had a question. On what we've received now, what do the highlights signify?
Changes.
So the red,
Green is addition,
okay.
and
And,
that's basically it. The
okay,
other one, I think there was a yellow for a certain section. It wasn't the actual, it was just a color yellow, I believe, for the city of Redondo Beach verbiage around voting.
Right, updated. Yeah, like what, is that changing?
so if it's yellow, it's
Mhm.
just updating the
Yes.
information.
It was just
But
something that was missing.
green is something that you have added in that wasn't there before.
Either to replace verbiage or to just simply add in new. It depends on the situation.
Any other questions?
I just want to comment, I feel really good about these updates, edits, and, we had some good discussions, and even after we made the edits, we realized our edits were not exactly aligned, but I think in the end, between Ricardo, myself, and you two, I think we feel good about what we have, and we continue to bring these forward to update.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would add to that, there's nothing really huge in here. It's all pretty minor, kind of mundane updates to certain things. Nothing that's
Some
a...
important clarifications.
Clarifications,
Tightening
yeah,
up.
but no real, I wouldn't call it any real game changers.
Mm-mm.
I'd call them clean now.
Yeah.
Okay, that's just a discussion item, so no vote.
No changes, no corrections needed?
Do we have any changes or corrections from anyone on the board?
So this is going to come back to us, though.
For us,
For
yes, for approval.
Okay.
Okay. I guess we'll move on to board member reports. Mr. Stratzenberg, would you like to go first?
I will. Just a second, I want to make sure I get the right things at the right time here. Okay. Basically, at SoCal Rock, we didn't have our last board meeting for SoCal Rock because of lack of quorum, which was very disappointing to me, but that's what happened. Dr. Hilaire, who was here last time, did propose a special meeting next week, but he's since rescinded that, so we're not going to be going on that. One of the things that I'd like some board input on that we will be voting on is they have proposed, that the Scrap Administration has proposed to programs. At the time, I looked into that. I spoke out against that because from what I found, they're a little bit predatory. And some of the questions I asked to the Maritime representative were not really answered, and were kind of generally just, yeah, we turn collections over to a third party kind of thing. And there wasn't really any backup for how well they do. I think there is a certain niche of people that this could really benefit, but I'm worried about the kids that will come in, kids, adults, that would come in and be enticed by this. And even if they end up finishing the program, they're saddled with that debt. And if they don't end up finishing the program, they're still saddled with that debt. And it's really tied to collegiate debt, which has become a huge subject in the U.S. So I'd like some more, I can answer more questions on that maybe, but my feeling on that was we've got to find a better way. I didn't like the idea that this is, in a lot of ways, it's been reported as a predatory lender. Now, their position is very different.
Right.
We provide opportunities.
What would they be the loan for, to pay for Scrock?
Pay for their tuition.
For adults that are not
Yeah.
being,
So if they wanted to take a certain class series, and, get a certain certificate or something, they would have the means to borrow the money to do it. However, we don't have great graduation rates, and that was just kind of my concern with that. And I think we can find better ways to do it. But I understand too that for some adults, this could be a very legitimate thing, as it is for student loans.
What's the typical cost of any of these courses?
We're talking probably in the range of $5,000 to $10,000, so it's not like a college type.
the entire program?
Yes.
Okay, so if it was like a welding certificate or something, in that, okay.
And there's also, for uncollected debt, there is risk to SoCal Rock that they would have to fund part of that uncollected debt. And the details of that I don't remember right now, but I didn't care for that either. It's there because, to me, somebody's making money off of it. And that's why I was concerned about it. But I'm open to, I'll vote how the board wants to go.
So my feeling on this is like, we elected you to be the representative because we trust your judgment. And if this were a vote of our board, I would abstain because I would defer to you. So that's my feeling on it. Like, I don't feel like it's our job to debate the internal issues at SCROC. It's your job to represent us and use your judgment to the best of your ability.
And I appreciate that, and there's very few things that I have to bring back for consideration, but I do want some other input, because I know I can have very strong opinions on things. And I don't
But
want
that's
that to
great,
be
but,
the case.
yeah. I mean, I'm honored, but, like, you have my proxy, you know,
I appreciate
so.
This is a procedural question. Does this need to be a discussion item right now, or is this?
It technically would be.
Okay.
It technically, I wrote that down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's a great point, because I hadn't thought about that. So my report to the board is, this is, it's coming up in November now for vote. As it stands, my vote would be no on this, so.
And
for
you
future-
have my proxy on that too. How about that? Oliver.
That's it for reports to the board.
Mr. Alden?
Sorry, so just one thing I wanted to clarify, because it came up quite a bit tonight, but Redondo Beach Unified School District, we're not a public health agency. We are not staffed with medical experts. We follow these legally mandated requirements set by county, state agencies, including those related to health. And those are driven by medical experts in organizations such as the CDC, the FDA, California Department of Public Health, LA County Department of Public Health. But our role really is just to support our teachers, our administrators, and staff so that they can support our students and really provide them the education that we know they deserve. So I just want to say thank you to our parents and the students. You've been more resilient and flexible throughout this pandemic than anyone could ask. Thank you to our teachers who've gone above and beyond and found creative and flexible new ways to teach students in all these different ways. Really just thank you to everyone who's helping dedicate themselves to ensuring our children thrive. Also want to say thank you to Ed Foundation. Thank you to Skechers for the peer-to-peer walk this past weekend. That was a lot of fun. It was great seeing the community come out and rally around such a great thing that supports so many fantastic programs in our schools. So that was great seeing the community invested this way. And thank you again to everyone.
Seamuth?
I was surprised that Mr. Strutzenberg didn't say it, but we just attended the second of the English Language Arts Adoption Program last Thursday. And we had another very full day of learning and trying to understand how we are going to start to decide what materials we're going to adopt and what curriculum is best for Redondo. And if anybody is interested and wants to know more, again, it's on the RBUSD.org website under educational services. And on the right-hand side, there's a link so you can see exactly what we did and kind of follow along.
Thanks to both of you for serving on that.
I saved it for you.
Mr. Whitkin.
I just want to thank everyone who stays late at these meetings while we conduct our business. So Dr. Toronto, Derek, everyone on the cabinet. Some of you have long commutes, and it's a very long day for me. It's even longer for you. So I just, I see you sitting all alone back there, and I just want you to know you're appreciated. Yeah. So that's all.
It's hard, just to echo my thanks, it's hard to believe that we're almost done with the first quarter, is that right, of high school? Which feels like this entire year is going by rather quickly. 10 weeks of school, I think that is. So thanks to the teachers, to the students. We're almost finished with football. We're finished with volleyball. We're moving on to other sports. It's nice to see us back and open again. And thanks to Beach City's Health District, who continues to be an amazing partner to us, always meeting our needs and whatever we can do to help support our community to stay healthy and get what they need in order to do that. Other than that, we have our non-student day, as Dr. Keller mentioned, on Monday, November 1st, right after Halloween. We'll be back here once in November, on November 9th at 5 o'clock. We'll have a Veterans Day holiday and a Thanksgiving break from the 22nd to the 26th, and again in December on December 14th. Does anybody have any future agenda items they'd like to add or discussion items?
I have one.
Yep.
I would propose to the board that we direct staff to create a draft new board policy that would state that middle school electives are to be board approved, and bring that back for discussion.
Okay. Fine.
Discussion on scruff as well.
Well, he'll have had his vote by then, I think, right?
No.
Do
The
you
meeting
wanna
will
add
be
them?
after that. You all can contact me without violating Brown Act, I believe, for SoCal Rock. I just can't talk to other SoCal Rock board members.
I've never investigated that one. That's an interesting one. I see what you're saying. I would just want clarification to be sure.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Okay.
I'll follow up.
But
And then I would just ask for the policy piece. I'll work with Dr. Wilds. It may not be the next meeting, but within the next 2 meetings. Is that fine? Just to-
November or December, one
Yes,
of the two.
we'll bring it back. If
Does
you're
that
okay
work
with
for you?
that, we'll make it
Sure.
happen. Great.
Okay. Anything else from anyone? All right, I'll take a motion in a second to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, Strutzenberg.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Meeting is adjourned.